Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new. My name is Leanne and today I have a fun video for you. It is a collection of previous Valentine's DIYs, or they're just kind of heart love DIYs. There are some of them that are definitely have a little bit more of a Valentine flair with the color choices, but you can of course change that out, make them neutral, and use them anytime in your decor. I like incorporating hearts and even the word love. You know, love is good for all year round. But this is a collection of some of my previous DIYs that maybe you haven't seen. I hope that you enjoy this video, and let's get started. All right, so for this one, I'm using another sign from the Dollar Tree. They sell these all the time, different types. I've actually had this one for a while, trying to work through some of my stash. And I'm just using my putty scraper tool to scrape off this embellishment on top. It's just made out of cardboard. And it did give me a little bit of trouble, but I did the best I could, and then I sanded it down before we went and painted it. Now this is just going to be the back of the piece, so it's okay if it's not perfect, but we're going to go over it with some Waverly chalk paint in the color Elephant. We're going to paint all sides, the back, the edges, and the inside, and I did do a couple coats of this until I had the coverage that I wanted. Now I will say for this part, and I didn't share it with you, but this little piece that I was painting over that I had a hard time getting off, when the first coat dried, it was actually starting to curl up, so I was able to easily go in with the putty knife and completely peel it off, and then I just painted it again. So maybe trying to get it wet a little bit with a damp paper towel would be good. Just don't over wet it because this is just made of like MDF, and you know, you don't want that to get all soggy, but that's just a little tip for you. Like I said, painting all of the sides and edges, and I did a couple coats of each, and then or a couple coats on each side, and then I went in with some Mod Podge just to make sure, I don't know, I feel like it just helps keep the paint from like chipping off, especially on like this inexpensive material. So that's what I did. You don't necessarily have to, but I chose to. And now I'm taking this heart piece, which is like a metal wall decor piece from the Crafter Square at Dollar Tree, and we're going to cut off the little jute hanger, and we're going to take our own twine, and I'm going to hot glue this around the edge. I wanted to give it some dimension. I also wanted to cover up the holes, so I ended up going around 4 times. Probably will depend on what you use, and just a little bits at a time because hot glue tends to dry really quick once it hits metal because the metal is cold. So I just kind of did a little bit at a time, and especially on the first round, just because I was trying to make sure it got all the way to the edge. And I went around a total of 4 times. Once we had all of our twine on, I went in with a lighter. The purpose was to burn off some of the like fuzzies from the twine as well as any hot glue strings, but I ran into some struggles. This lighter was just about out of fluid, and so I dug in, found another one that was going strong for about 30 seconds, and then that one ran out as well. And I really wanted to finish this project, so I pulled out some matches. Definitely not the safest route to take, so use caution if you go that route. Needless to say, lighters are going to go on my list. Apparently, I need those. And so, but you don't necessarily have to do this step, but I do love the burnt look it gives the twine, and it also just kind of cleans up any of the mess from that. And then we're just going to flip it over, and I'm taking some of these little wooden cubes. They are from the Dollar Tree as well. They come in a pack of, I don't know, maybe 30. They come in a pretty decent sized pack. And we're going to hot glue a few of those around the back of this heart, and this will just kind of elevate it from our sign when we attach it. So now we're going to hot glue the other side of the blocks and center this inside of our little sign here. I did think about putting something else on top of the heart, a word or something, but you know, it's nice to have some things that don't have words in it. This is kind of the item that could be used for Valentine's Day if you want, but it's really not Valentine-y in my opinion. I will be using it different times throughout the year, and I love how this came out. Really cute little shelf or counter decor piece. So for this first DIY, I'm using a mason jar sign that is from the Dollar Tree. Now I've already redone it, so I'm going to just do the flip side of this, but if you obviously, you know, just get it new, you're just going to take off all the stuff that's on it that you don't want. I'm going to remove the twine I have on there. I tried to take it off in a way that I could reuse it, but I didn't have any luck with that. And for a lot of these DIYs, we're going to be using this folk art paint in the color Seashell Pink, and I'm just using a lot of the same just because I'm wanting everything to go together because we're going to be able to use these all on a tiered tray. So I'm going to give the back side a couple of coats and just keep going until I have the coverage I want. And then I was showing you here that the G came off of the word grateful when I was doing that. So I'm like, all right, I'm just going to redo this side as well. So I'm using my hair dryer to heat up where the hot glue is to remove this part here. And I tried to remove the paper that was on there, but it was on really, really good, even after sanding it. So we're just going to put on some new paper. This is some scrapbook paper that I have in a pack from Hobby Lobby. It's actually in a Christmas pack, but it doesn't look super Christmassy to me. I mean, I guess it could be, but it looks good for Valentine's Day to me. So I am just tracing it out, cutting it out, and I'm going to use a glue stick to adhere that to the top here. I'm not going to worry about the top of the jar. We'll go back and take care of that later. And I'm just using this little Mod Podge squeegee type tool to smooth it out, but you could use a credit card or something like that, and it works great. So now I'm going to go with a metal heart that was already on the sign. This is from an old Valentine's sign from Dollar Tree, and I always save things when I take it off. So I'm going to go ahead and give this a coat of paint. Actually, I'm going to give it probably 3 coats altogether. Just make sure that it fully dries in between coats, but I just wanted the white paint versus the metal. Now that the glue has had a chance to dry, I'm just using my sanding block to sand away from the paper. You don't want to pull up on it, just to clean up any edges that were hanging over. So I'm just going to sand that and get any remnants off. And then I decided, because I was kind of making this up as I go along, that I needed to touch up the sides and paint that with white that was already painted, but wanted to touch that up. And then I'm going to go ahead and paint the top part of what would be the top part of the jar. And I'm just going to do that in a couple coats of white paint. The rest only took 1 coat because it was already white, but again, this will be different based on what you're working with. If you are new to my channel, I want to welcome you. I love sharing budget-friendly DIYs, and I hope that you consider subscribing to my channel before you leave. So now we're going to go on and put some letters. I'm just using this stencil. This is from the Dollar Tree. I do cut out the letters sometimes to make it easier. And I'm just going to use some white acrylic paint, just careful to not put too much paint on my paintbrush. And I'm just going to put XOXO. And actually, I think I might go back and do it 3 times. But yeah, just let it dry quickly in between. Now we're flipping it back over, and I'm just going to hot glue my heart on. I'm going to put the glue on the sign versus the heart because the heart is made of metal, so the glue typically would cool really quickly. So this gave me a little bit more wiggle room. Just be careful because the hot glue will be hot through the metal sign. And I'm going to put a little coat of Mod Podge on the heart because paint tends to chip off of metal pretty easily. And then I've got this white berry garland, I think is what it's called, from the Dollar Tree. And I'm just going to wrap that around the top. I thought that was cute. It would go well with both sides. And it is wired, but I put a little dab of glue on both the beginning and the end and wrap that up. And I'll show you what it looks like at the end. For this next DIY, I found this cute little house sign from the Dollar Tree. I initially painted over the paper, and then I decided to scrape off the paper. So do with that what you will. It actually came up pretty easily, but you can always take like a damp paper towel and let that sit on it and soak it up too, or just paint over it or paper over it, whatever you want to do. I'm just going to use my sanding block to clean that up a little bit more and smooth it out, and I'm using my little handy dandy vacuum to clean that up as well. We're going in more with that pink, and I'm going to, which is I think Seashell Pink by Folk Art, and I'm going to give that a couple of good coats. I wanted really good coverage, but I find that just sometimes you have to take the patience or have the patience to do multiple thin coats, especially when using acrylic paint. I do end up painting the roof line white as well, but I don't show that to you, but you can of course do whatever colors you want. And I've got these white stickers. These are from Hobby Lobby. I picked them up on clearance. I love looking for stickers on clearance there. And I'm just applying them to say what I want. So I'm going to put February on the side going up in some small stickers. And then I have very similar stickers but in a larger font and I'm going to put 14 on the center there. Now when I was done with this, I was like, this feels like it needs a little something else. So I pulled from my stash these wooden stickers from the Dollar Tree, and you could just use, like, they don't have to be stickers, but these ones are stickers. You could just use the plain wooden hearts, and I'm giving that a couple coats of white paint, and I am peeling off the sticker on the back before I attach this, just because I didn't want it to be popping out as much. So I'm going to put a little bit of hot glue and put that down, and that will be it for this DIY. Like I said, I will share them all with you at the end. Oh, I do put a coat of Mod Podge, I forgot. For this next one, I have this mini wooden rolling pin. These come from the, I think it's called Woodpile section of the Dollar Tree, not the Dollar Tree, I wish, of Hobby Lobby. And they came in like a 3 or 4 pack. So I'm just sanding it down because it is a little bit of rough wood, and I'm going to put a couple coats of pink on the main part of the rolling pin, and then I will do the handles in some white paint. If you are enjoying this DIY video, please give this video a thumbs up. It helps me out so much. Also, things like saying hello in the comments. If you don't know what to say and just want to leave an emoji, you can leave a heart emoji, since these are Valentine's DIYs. Whatever you want to do, but those little interactions do help out my channel so much. It lets YouTube know that people are enjoying my videos and makes them more likely to share my videos with other people, which is really how channels grow, is when YouTube starts recommending our videos to others. And now I'm going to go in with more of those same stickers and put on some letters. I'm using this little tool. I think it's like a mock Cricut tool from Dollar Tree, and I don't have a Cricut or any cutting machines, but I do have a lot of those little tools because they are very, very handy when DIYing for various things. So I'm just using that to help me place these itty bitty stickers, and then I'm going to Mod Podge over this. Really needed that to help hold the stickers in because it was a rounded surface, so I was really pressing them down. But then I do put Mod Podge over the entire thing. And that's all I did for this one. I didn't add any string or bows, but you could easily do that on the handle or on the ends if you wanted as well. But I just kept this kind of simple. To get started on our next DIY, I'm going to use those same stickers that we've been using, and I'm going to paint them with that pink paint. And I just want to say, painting stickers is a really, really great option. These stickers took the paint amazingly well. Some don't take them as well, but I did thin coats, and I did do like 3 coats just so that I had minimal stroke, like paintbrush stroke marks and things like that. But don't be afraid to try painting your stickers to get the color that you want. And I'm using another one of those little wood stickers from the Dollar Tree and painting that pink as well. And then I have this little sign. This is from the Dollar General, and originally it's $1, but I picked up a few of them on clearance. It was, I don't know, it might have been 10 cents. I got them really, really cheap. And we're going to trace and cut out some paper. Now, depending on the surface and how thick your paper is, you may or may not want to do this, but I decided to put a coat of paint down underneath, and I didn't worry about it covering it completely. I just really wanted to kind of mute it so that you wouldn't be able to see it through the paper. But some paper is thicker than others, some colors aren't as bright, so do what you got to do. And I'm just using a glue stick once again, and I'm going to apply that really good to the edges of the paper, and I'm also going to apply it to the sign itself, and then we will attach this. I love using the glue stick. It does give me a little bit of wiggle room, but you still got to move somewhat quickly, and I'm using that little squeegee tool once again to smooth out any wrinkles and to press it down, smooth out any globs of glue, all the things. And then I'm just going to use my cutting mat and a sharp tool to trim off any extras. And I was just showing you that when you peel off your stickers, if there is paint hanging over the edge, which does happen, although did not at all on these stickers, just gently use like your fingernail to kind of scrape along the edge of the sticker, and the paint will flake off. So just obviously make sure it's fully dry first, and we're just going to apply the letters and then apply the sticker. At first I just put some hot glue over the sticker, and before it fully dried I was like, I don't like this. I peeled it off. I tore the paper a little bit, but it's okay because I knew I was covering it up, and I just pulled off the sticker and then reapplied the hot glue to the wood heart itself. That way it wasn't quite as 3D. So I wanted to make a little beaded garland for this tiered tray set. This is one I picked up from Hobby Lobby, I think last year on clearance after Valentine's Day, but you can use whatever beads you have on hand. But to get started, I'm going to take this grapevine heart wreath from the Dollar Tree, and we're going to give it a coat of paint in that same pink color from Folk Art. I believe they still have these grapevine heart wreaths this year as well. I'm pretty sure I've seen them, but you could use, these are just supposed to be for ideas and inspiration. Use whatever it is that you have on hand. Now we're going to go ahead and take apart this beaded garland. I'm going to just cut the string and we're going to pull off the beads, and I'm going to paint the red ones. So not the easiest thing to do because the red obviously is so bright, but I wanted to do white and natural colored beads. So I'm putting the red beads in a plastic baggie, and I'm just putting in some of that white acrylic paint. I think it might be Snow White, might be the name of it, from Apple Barrel. And I'm just going to rub them around in the bag. And then in between coats, I did have to do multiple coats. I just sealed up the plastic baggie so that the paint wouldn't dry out. And I'm just going to put these in this is just like a bottom of a gift box. And as you can see, I've used it before. All that other paint was already dry on it. And we're just going to roll it around. And this helps make sure there's no paint clumps on it, making sure they don't dry stuck together, that kind of a thing. I did have to do, like I said, about 3 coats because of the color of the paint. And then I also used a little wooden skewer to push out any paint that got in the holes on the beads. Once that was all dry, I'm using some twine. This is a like natural and white colored twine, and we're just going to string up the beads. I did put some hot glue on the end of the twine and kind of rubbed it around to make a point to make it easier to thread them on. You could also use some type of needle or wrap the end with some tape, whatever you need to do to make it easier to thread it on. And then we're just going to use the existing tassel and thread that through. I did have to get out my little faux Cricut tool to help push it through. That actually worked really well. You can also make your own tassels. There's lots of people who do some great instructions on making your own tassels on YouTube, so you can check that out if you're not sure. But since this already had one, I decided I might as well use it. Tied it in a double knot, and I did put a dab of hot glue to just secure that a little bit more. And then I'm just tying the other end onto the heart, and we're just going to make that's going to be it. I think that's all I do. Trim that up, and there it is. Now I'll show you how it all looked together on my tiered tray. All right, so I just combined my DIY items from today in with some other items I already had on hand and did a little tiered tray. So to start out, I'm going to be using Waverly chalk paint in silver lining, elephant, along with white. We'll be getting to the paint markers in just a second. So I just have a flat canvas from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to give this a couple coats of paint in a variety of colors. I'm going to show you here in just a second. The idea of this is I like to paint. It's very therapeutic for me, but I'm not good at coming up with images in my mind and painting them. But if I find something, then I like to try to replicate it. So here is what I'm going to be trying to make. I found this on Pinterest. I will leave a couple different links. I cannot figure out the original artist for this, the original place for this painting. I've seen a couple links to a couple different like wine and design type things. So I'm not sure where it originated from, but I thought this would be fun to try to make. So I am using my paint to do my best to replicate this. I'm not going to do it exactly, but I'm going to just use the chalk paint. You could use acrylic paint here too for the background, just because I feel like it'd be easier to blend the paint colors together. So when it came to this elephant paint color, I had not mixed it up properly, but then I kind of liked it because it kind of gave me, depending on where I pulled from in the jar, I got some darker gray and lighter gray, and it just gave me more options to blend this together. So you could also just have more grays and whites to work with, I guess, but I just used my unmixed paint to my advantage. And I'm looking up at my computer, just kind of keeping an eye on things. Again, I'm not doing it exactly, but just kind of gauging what I'm doing. And for this bottom part, I did keep working with it while it was wet so that I could blend it, but then there were other times where I stopped and let it dry before I continued on. So I'm just going to keep going with the grays and the whites and the back and the forth until I have the bottom part looking the way I want it to. So once I was satisfied with that, we're going to just use the back end of a paintbrush to make little dots of snow falling from the sky. once again, just kind of going off of what I saw in the picture and in the image. And one of my ideas for this video, yes, I want to try out the paint markers for you, which you're going to see here in just a second once we're done with the snow. But I also just want to show you how easy it can be to do this. You don't have to have any skills, and the paint markers are great because you don't actually have to learn any paint stroke techniques either. But I think it's really fun to just find an image online for your inspiration and to try to create it. And I could do this all the time. It's very relaxing to me. So I'm hoping to do more of it in the future, even if it's just for my own sake, for my own happiness. All right, so here are the paint markers. These were sent to me by Hippie Crafter. These acrylic paint markers come in so many different colors, and I had used these prior actually when we went to New York for Christmas to do some painting with my nieces because they had kind of asked for that. But they come in so many colors, and you just have to shake them for like 10 to 15 seconds and get kind of the paint going. And I'll show you in a second kind of how you do that. I wanted to show you the item that I made over Christmas. Even the background, everything was with these paint markers, and I had so much fun. My nieces had said they wanted to paint with me while I was there, and I happened to get these markers right beforehand, and so I brought them, and they were easy for them to use, and we just had a lot of fun. All right, so back to today's project. I'm going to go in with a pencil, even though I knew I couldn't really erase it very well because I didn't want to mess up the paint. The pencil rough outline gave me a little bit more confidence going forward with the paint marker, and I'm just sketching out the tree, the trunk, and the branches. Again, it does not have to be perfect, just go with it, just have fun with it. So that's what I'm doing here with a pencil first. And then with the paint marker, you just want to shake it for about 10 seconds, and there's like a little marble sounding thing in there. I don't know if it's actually a marble. And then just take a piece of paper, I'm using a paper towel, and you're just going to go up and down with the tip over and over again until the tip fills with paint. I wasn't sure how long I'd have to do it because I'd already used these once before, but it had been a couple of weeks. So as you can see, just up and down, and once it's flowing, you're good to go. And you're just going to keep going until the paint comes to the tip, and then you can go ahead and start writing with it. So it works a lot like a marker. You have a little bit more control than with a paintbrush. Now you do have to remember that it is paint, so it doesn't take a lot of time to dry because it's not thick paint, but it does take time to dry. So if I was layering something, I would let it dry in between, but like I said, that does not take very long. Now I'm just going to go through and I'm going to sketch the trunk and the branches. Now I'm going to start to fill in the trunk and make the branches a little bit thicker. And I just keep looking up at the picture over and over again. That's my only trick to this. And this is a really inexpensive thing to experiment with. The canvases are not expensive at all, so it's fun to just give it a try. You never know, maybe you'll find that you really like this sort of thing. I do take my time. This is sped up a little bit, so I definitely am taking my time doing it. But like I said, it was a very relaxing and peaceful thing to do. So once I was satisfied with my tree, we're going to go in with the red, and I will also use a white paint marker, and I'm just drawing little hearts all over and kind of making it look like to me in the image that the hearts were also in the shape of a heart, like around the tree branches, if that makes sense. So I did not copy heart for heart that they did. I just kind of kept eyeballing it to make sure I was kind of covering the same surface area, but some are larger than others, some are tilted a little bit, and I just was careful because I knew I couldn't very easily redo it. I mean, you could just paint over it again and start over, but very easy to do. And I'll admit, I did not realize till I was totally done that the inspiration picture had little white birds on the bottom branch. So I didn't do that in mine, but that's okay. These paint markers make projects like this super easy because, like I said, you have more control than with a paintbrush. Now, I still do enjoy painting with a paintbrush, but I think this is a fun alternative. And when I was doing the crafts with my nieces, I had them use the markers like inside of stencils. It was just super easy for them to do. I wish I had pictures of that, but when I was filming I was filming while we were there for my other channel, but they were making them for gifts for family, and so they kind of hurried up and tucked them away, and I never did get pictures of them. So here they are side by side, and again, not an exact replica, but I thought it came out pretty cute. I hope that you are inspired to maybe give painting a try. Grab some paint markers. They make it super easy. They're very, very user-friendly, and I had so much fun with this, and I hope to do more. The paint markers are great for lots of other things as well, so you'll be seeing them in future videos. So for this first one, we're going to start out with some puzzle pieces. I picked up a puzzle from the Dollar Tree a couple years ago. I've been working off of the same puzzle that I have done several DIYs with. And then I just pulled out plaster by Waverly, a white acrylic paint, and then a couple of brown beige colors that I just had in my stash. And we're going to start by painting a bunch of puzzle pieces. I like to flip them over and paint the back side. I have done the printed side before. I think like the first time I did a DIY like this, and I was like, I don't know why I did that because it took more coats. Now the back is just cardboard. It absorbs very quickly, which is great because it dries quickly. And sometimes you need to do more than one coat just because of the cardboard coloring. It just kind of mutes it a little bit. So depending on what you're going for, you may want to do a couple of coats. But like I said, it dries pretty quick. So this takes a little bit of time, but put on a good movie or a YouTube video and just paint your pieces. Now, depending on the size of the finished product that you want is going to depend on how many pieces you want. I think I did roughly 15 to 20 of each color, but I didn't use quite all of them, so I don't really know exactly what to tell you. It's also going to depend on the size puzzle that you're using as well. So just go ahead and paint them up, and again, change these up different colors if you want. If you want to do a super traditional Valentine's colors, you could go ahead and do that. You could do all one color. I just thought the different colors would be fun. So however you want to do it, that's what you're going to do. If you're new to my channel, my name is Leanne. I enjoy sharing budget-friendly and easy DIYs here on my channel. I do a lot of Dollar Tree DIYs. I use some thrifted items. I just try to keep it super budget-friendly and something that kind of anybody could do. I'm not a professional. I just like creating and I like sharing my ideas with you. So moving on, and I'm sorry, this doesn't seem to be in focus. I'm not sure why, but this is a picture frame that I picked up at a thrift store. As you can see, it was still in its plastic, but I paid 99 cents for it. It was a little bit brittle. A couple of those tabs broke off when I was opening it, but it didn't really matter. It worked fine. You could use any frame that you've already got on hand or from the Dollar Tree. I often find brand new picture frames like wrapped in plastic at one of our local thrift stores, so I usually pick them up when I see them because I can usually get them cheaper than I would at the Dollar Tree. Anyways, I decided that I wanted to lighten up this frame, and so I'm going to give this a couple coats of Waverly's paint in the color Plaster. Painting these plasticky frames can be a little bit tricky. Just make sure that you let the paint dry in between coats, and otherwise I'll just kind of pulls it back off. So it can be a little bit tricky, but just take your time, be patient with it, and it works. So now I'm just, again, this one is out of focus. I promise it gets better. I'm not sure what happened here. I am using what is kind of like a tacky glue and a piece of cardstock. I'm using a piece of scrapbook paper. You'll see it later. It's like a thicker scrapbook paper, and I'm just flipping it over because I wanted just a white background. I messed around with a few different options, and I just decided that with the busyness of the puzzle pieces, I wanted to keep it simple with the background. So my glue tends to be very sticky and dries up and clogs up the nozzle, so I'm just painting it with a paintbrush. And in the beginning you saw me with a ruler and a pencil. I was just kind of marking where I wanted the center and bottom of a heart is what we're doing, just to give me a little bit of an idea. And then I'm just going around and I'm painting the glue on and putting the puzzle pieces on and making a heart, mixing up the colors of the pieces, mixing up the direction of the pieces, and then I do go around and do 2 to 3 layers on top as well, and I just kind of keep going until it looks good to me. No real specific rules there, and I'm just kind of cleaning up the glass a little bit, and we're going to put this together, but we're going to add something else, so we're not quite done yet. So we're going to pop that in, and this was a good frame for this with the puzzle because it had a piece of foam in there originally, so like it made it a little bit, it's like a deeper frame. So when I pulled all of the inside stuff out, there was still plenty of room for the puzzle, so it was perfect for this. And I'm not going to show you this very long because it didn't work. These gold rub-on transfer letters from the Dollar Tree, this is the second time I tried them. They're horrible. I'm throwing them out. So I ended up taking this metallic marker from the Dollar Tree, and I had never used it before, I don't think. And it would have just said on the pen, on the marker, to shake it and then tap the tip down until you have the ink, I guess, flowing. And then I'm just going to freehand on the glass frame, and I used rubbing alcohol and a paper towel. I used that earlier to take off the rub-on transfer, the little bit that did transfer, and it worked great. And I did this here because I redid this a couple of times until I got it the way I liked it. But I'm just writing "Love You to Pieces," and I will show the finished product at the very end because I ended up changing that. But the rubbing alcohol worked great. Moving on to the next one, I've got this ribbon that was at $5, or I'm sorry, the Dollar Tree Plus section for $5, but I believe I got that after Christmas, so I only paid $2.50 for it. And then I just pulled a jar from my stash. I always save jars. And I cut that to fit it, and then we're going to just use the stencil from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to stencil on some hearts. And just because I do like to keep it real here on my channel, I'm going to show you that I did mess up, and I ended up having to cut another piece of ribbon. But you could also just use a piece of burlap or like the smaller burlap ribbon from Dollar Tree if you don't have a Dollar Tree Plus section. So, you know, yeah, whatever you've got. But I was excited to pick up this ribbon when it was half off. I think I picked it when it was half off. I might have paid full price for it. Either way, $5 is a pretty good price. So here you can see that one I messed up on. So I did it again, and I just did 3 hearts on it, and then I'm just using a tiny bead of glue to attach this, and I'll show you how I style it at the end of the video. But the great thing with this is all you gotta do is heat that up with like a hair dryer or a heat gun, and you can pop, maybe not even have to do that. You might just be able to pull it off. The hot glue will hold fine on the glass, but it is not going to be permanent. So if you want to use this jar again for something else, you can. So repurposing my messed up burlap ribbon, I just cut off some of that and I'm folding it in half. It's a pretty sturdy ribbon, and I'm just going to cut out a heart. And this video is going to have a few different mess ups to share with you. But I didn't love the way that was cut at first. So I trim it up and get the size heart that you want. Whatever you're doing, just make it work for you. And then I have seen people use a lighter to to singe the edge so it doesn't fray. So I tried that and kind of wrecked the shape of the heart. So I just did it, I just made another one. And what I've learned is that, at least with this particular ribbon, that I just don't want to have it, the flame near it too much, otherwise it starts melting away at it. If you just do it quickly, it will just singe the edges. And then all I'm doing is taking one of my flameless candles. You could just use a real one, as long as maybe you don't burn it, I don't know, or one from the Dollar Tree, but this is just one that I already had. I laid that burlap heart across the front, and I'm using some twine to wrap it around and tie it in a bow. Once again, this is nothing permanent. All you gotta do is take off the twine, and the burlap heart comes off. And I cleaned up. I have water on my sweatshirt there. I'm seeing that's probably splashed on me when I was cleaning paintbrushes or something. Anyways, that is it. Very super easy, and I love how these came out. I think these could honestly be left up like all year round, not just for Valentine's Day. With the metallic marker, I did have to do a couple layers of it to stand out a little bit more. But I love how these came out. I hope you enjoyed them too. If you do, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. If you're new, please consider subscribing before you leave, and I'll see you in my next one. So for this first one, I have this little heart tabletop decor from Dollar Tree, and I just sanded it down really good to get a rougher surface so that the shiny stuff wouldn't come through. And now we're going to go in with some fabric paint. This is from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to draw on some little swirlies. I probably should have practiced this on a piece of paper first, but I didn't. So they're not perfect, but I still love how it came out. So you're just going to put your design on your surface. It does take quite a while for the fabric paint to dry, especially if you have some thicker spots of the puffy paint or fabric paint. You can also use puffy paint. Fabric paint pretty much works the same way. So here it is, and I'm just going to let that dry for like 3 or 4 hours. And now I'm going in with some Waverly chalk paint in the color white, and we're going to paint over the whole thing. I do a couple of coats. I do dry it in between. I use my hair dryer, which does have a cool setting, but I often forget to use it, and if you use the warm heat, it will cause the paint to crack. So just a heads up. Or you can just let it dry naturally, but by this point I had been waiting hours for the fabric paint to dry. So I used my dryer. I ended up doing 2 coats just to make sure I had a good coating or good coverage of paint. You couldn't see anything through it. I do also do the edges and the back of the piece just so that it was all matching. The edges are white, but I want it to be the same white. And I painted the back just in case you saw it later. And now I'm going in with some Waverly chalk paint in the color Celery and a stencil brush and wiping a lot of that off, doing a dry brush. And we're just going to go over the pattern to try to highlight that. In the spring, and actually kind of just my everyday decor, I use a lot of greens. The celery and moss colors from Waverly chalk paint are common themes in my decor, so I just kind of went with that because I thought it would go well with my decor. This is a very pretty like shelf piece or even a tiered tray. And then I'm trying to wrap some twine around this, and I do this in the most awkward way possible because I was trying to make it so that you guys could see it. So eventually I give up and I'm like, forget it. I'm just wrapping it around a couple of times and tying a bow. I did not hot glue this. Of course, feel free to do so if you want. Eventually I turn this around towards me so that I can tie a bow that looks appropriate. So yeah, that is all there is to this cute little decor piece. I absolutely love how it came out. Oh, that's right. I also get my lighter and burn off all of the fuzzies. Typically I do that before I put it on. I don't know if it was smart to I don't know, do it like this, but I did it like this. It just gets all those extra little hairs off. Anyways, that is it for this one. I really love how it came out. I think it's really cute, and you really don't notice that the swirls aren't that perfect. It's like less noticeable than I thought it would be. So I was very pleased with how this came out. So for this next one, I have this cute little sign from the Dollar Tree, and once again, I sanded it. I actually pulled off a lot of the paper and just smoothed it out best I could. And because this was a little bit rough, I mean, I smoothed it out pretty good, but there was definitely different layers kind of in the surface. So I just mixed some Waverly chalk paint in the color white with some baking soda to do that like textured paint and gave this a good solid coat. It's not like super noticeable, but it definitely disguised any imperfections underneath. So while that's drying, I'm going to take these little grapevine hearts and some moss both from the Dollar Tree, but I'm just going to hot glue all the way around, placing this moss, and we're just going to try to cover it from, not really getting the back because I'm going to be attaching this, but a little bit on the sides and the front. And don't worry about going too heavy on it. We're going to trim this up, kind of clean it up afterwards. So I'm just using a liberal amount of hot glue, trying to not burn myself as I pat it down and working my way around the wreath. I guess it's not a wreath, but working my way around the heart. And then I'm going in with these little shears, little scissors from the Dollar Tree, but you could use your regular size ones as well. And we're just trimming the heck out of it. We're going to trim all of the sides down and the top and just try to get it back into a heart-shaped form. And then I use kind of what I trimmed off to finish up the piece and to fill in any gaps. If you are enjoying this video, if you love budget-friendly, easy DIYs, please consider subscribing before you leave, and also give this video a thumbs up if you are enjoying it. That helps me out so much, and subscribing just makes sure that you get to know when I post other videos, so why not do it? Now that it's all trimmed up, I'm going to put a decent amount of hot glue on the back of our little grapevine heart wreath thing and flip that over and attach it. And then I did decide to go in with some Waverly wax in the color Antique, and with a small paintbrush just go over the roof line. I just kind of wanted to make it pop a little bit more. So I'm just brushing a little bit of that on and then wiping it off with a paper towel. And I liked the overall look that this gave. I thought about adding like a bow or something else to this piece, but I really just kind of like the simplicity of it. So that's all I did for it. I really love how this piece came out, that it's super cute. This might be a little too big for my tier tray, but it'll definitely be cute on a shelf somewhere. So for this next one, I'm using, this was a frame from inside of a canvas that I had previously used for a DIY. It's already painted. You could see the stuff on the back from something else that had been attached to it. We're repainting it. You could use a canvas or you could just use a frame, and I'm using some plaster by Waverly, and my plaster is almost done and it was thick, so I added water which makes the container super lightweight. And that happened, and I spilled paint all over my floor. Let's have a moment of silence. Okay, got it cleaned up. We're painting this frame. Like I said, you could just use a regular frame, or you could use a canvas itself and cut the canvas off, however you want to do that. Next, my paintbrush is a mess here because I used it to stir the paint. Okay, these are sloppy. This was also like after midnight, so some grace for me. But these are some little wooden pieces, little wooden flowers from Dollar Tree, and I'm just painting 4 of them with the plaster as well. I'm using this canvas bag, which is from the Dollar Tree, and I'm cutting it apart. And I'm just cutting out a piece to fit at the back of my frame. I did speed this up so that you don't have to see all the things. And I decided to just hot glue it and flip the frame over, but then my hot glue gun was jamming up and causing problems. So I had to go back in and add more hot glue, and you figure out how you want to do this. So I'm going to finish gluing this burlap piece, and then we will trim it up. Now this may have been the easier way to do it from the start, just doing little sections at a time, so maybe try that first. And then I'm just using a sharp blade to trim it off, which kind of means it like cuts into the canvas or like the back of the frame. So you might not want to do that depending on what frame you're using, but this one was kind of already butchered in the back because I've used it for a couple of DIYs. So that's what I'm doing. And then I was like, this is too see-through. So I pulled out some poster board and we're going to cut that down to size. You could also just double up your piece of fabric, or if you actually used a canvas frame, you could just flip your canvas over and use the back side of the canvas. That's kind of got a little bit more of a beigey color. So just to give you ideas of how you can do it, you don't have to have exactly all of the same elements. But the poster board is making it not as see-through, but not really changing the color. It's also, I guess, maybe making it a little bit more firm, although what we're hanging is not going to be heavy. So, however you want to do that. If you're new here, thank you so much for stopping by. I would love it if you would consider subscribing. I love to share easy DIYs with you. We have some fun. I'm not a professional, but I like to create and I like to share it with you. So I would love it if you would consider subscribing. As you can see, some of these rose pieces were also red and pink. So if you wanted to keep them that color, this would be really cute for like a Valentine's DIY. But I, once again, wanted to go a little bit more neutral, and we're just going to hot glue them on. You could also use like a super glue gel. The hot glue does kind of provide a little bit of stringies, you know, throughout. I didn't put it all around, but it was kind of hard to avoid having little hot glue strings. But once I get everything down, we'll go over it with a hairdryer to just kind of melt those away, and it ends up being just fine. You could put a hanger on the back if you want to hang it on the wall. I'm going to kind of leave it more as just like a leaner sign, kind of like that I would put behind other things when setting up like a shelf or whatever. But I don't want to keep repeating myself, but you can do it obviously however you want to do it. And I will show you how everything looks finished at the end of the video. If you're enjoying these DIYs, I would love it if you gave this video a thumbs up. It helps me out so very much. And say hello in the comments. Let me know if you're stopping by from the playlist or what your favorite DIY is. Or just give a thumbs up or a smile, whatever. Those things really do help my channel out. For this next one, I know some people will have a problem with this. I am using an old hymnal. I've had some people kind of get upset with me over this. I'm not going to go into why I don't think that this is a problem. I'm not trying to disrespect it. In fact, I appreciate it, and I love the song that this was in, but hymnal is falling apart and all of that, so I'm just trying to give it new life. But you could print off some sheet music. You could use book pages. You could get some scrapbook paper, however you want to do it. But here is my inspiration picture, and I am using one of my battery-operated flameless candles, and I don't want this to be a permanent thing, so I'm not gluing anything. But you could certainly attach it with some Mod Podge or whatever. You could use a real candle if you wanted, although I wouldn't recommend. See, the candle came on. I think it was on a timer. You could use a real candle, but I don't think you would probably want to burn it with this on it. But I'm just tearing the edges to kind of give it a rough and rustic piece. And I'm using 2 pieces of it. It didn't go all the way around, but it's okay. And we're just going to tie it on with some twine. And halfway through this, I realized that the back side I had flipped over so it wasn't the same song on both sides, if that makes sense. This is where I'm reading the words and I'm like, this isn't the same one. So that may or may not matter to you, but I liked the song. It's Blessed Assurance, Jesus is Mine, which is a beautiful old hymn, and so I wanted the same words or the same song on both sides. So all I'm doing is using this twine from the Dollar Tree and wrapping this around, and I do try to make sure it's not covering any words, but again, that's all just personal preference. And you could really use any paper, but I love the music notes. And then I'm just trimming down a little piece of greenery, and I'm going to tie that in a knot across the front as well. And that is it for this DIY. That's all there is to it. It's nothing complicated. A set of these would be really nice as well, which maybe I'll go back and do. I'm not sure. This would be pretty in a little lantern. Anyways, I love it. And this is how they all came out. I was very pleased with them, and I hope that you enjoy them. If you do, like I said, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. I will see you in the next video.